After President Cyril Ramaphosa introduced social assistance measures to soften the battering from COVID-19, unemployed adults aged 18 to 59 were brought into the social security net for the very first time. These new grant beneficiaries were not registered with the South African Social Security Agency, so private partners such as GovChat were brought on board to digitise the process. With a new COVID variant and demand for a basic income grant increasing, companies such as GovChat are getting in on the action. A new open secrets investigation shows that these digital systems can be used in ways that cause harm, particularly to people in need of social assistance. To explain their findings, we are joined by Abby May, who's part of the investigations and advocacy team at Open Secrets. Abby, very good morning. First up, I suppose, let's talk about who GovChat is and what it is that they do.
Of course, thank you so much, Hugo. So GovChat is a South African startup-based company, and it is officially the company that created the official citizen engagement platform of South Africa. And with that platform, it was able to allow everyday citizens to go onto the app and the platform and make complaints about whichever government department or state entity that they're having issues with. And they basically collect those data analytics and allow for the government to get feedback in that way. So that is initially how GovChat started itself. With the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, GovChat was brought in by SASSA to assist with its digitalization process of the SRD grant application process specifically. It was very important for SASSA to minimize physical contact with grant applicants, and so they decided to go with an online platform. And they did this through email, SMS, and WhatsApp, and GovChat was the company that facilitated the WhatsApp portal.
So on the face of it, GovChat has been a positive development, certainly for the government and particularly to the citizens of this country.
Yes, on the face of it, it certainly is so. The findings within our report definitely makes it clear that digitalizing and processes like that is not inherently bad. In fact, it's quite a good thing. The issue is, though, that with those processes, we need to understand what is involved and who has control and access to the data that they're collecting. With the SRD grant application process, it was very interesting. GovChat provided their services to SASSA completely free. And if no one knows this, but to build these technological systems and infrastructures, it takes quite a lot of resources to build it. And to be able to provide those services for free is definitely a red flag. So
I suppose if I could come in there, Abby, you talk about huge costs to put this sort of thing together. What are those numbers looking like?
Well, at the moment, GovChat hasn't necessarily disclosed what those numbers are. But to put it into perspective, the way in which companies such as Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, their capital market equates to 75 trillion rand. And in that 75 trillion rand, we could split that up to provide every single citizen within South Africa 1.25 million rand each. So to put it into perspective, the ability to have access to personal data and monetize it, there is so much profits and potential for profits within that market. But as of right now, we do not have full disclosure of what those numbers are with GovChat's end.
So there is no evidence at this point that this system has been manipulated or GovChat are benefiting from the use or from the setup of GovChat itself?
At the moment, within the report, we look at 3 case studies. We look backwards to Net1 and CPS, where there was definitive evidence that Net1 and CPS, through their digitalization process with the SASSA cards, did manipulate and did extort the system and abused grant applicants by placing loans and airtime funds and all those sorts of things onto their bank accounts and charging it away from them. Then we look at the present case study, and the report is incredibly forward-looking, and it's one of the first reports that we have taken where it is very forward-looking, and we're just highlighting the risks that SASSA needs to be careful and scrutinize what exactly the new partners in its digitalization process are doing and will be doing, and clarifying that with South African citizens. Transparency is absolutely key so that we do not have a similar case such as Net1 and CPS.
Do you not feel that you're tarnishing the image of GovChat in the process when there isn't any evidence, as you've said, to suggest that there's been any wrongdoing?
While we made no allegations within the report that GovChat is doing anything wrong, we are just highlighting the risks within the report that this is something that needs to be given much more scrutiny and a deeper look into. So, no.
Now, one of the things that you talk about in the report is that this process did not go to tender. That, you suggest,
Yes.
is irregular. But GovChat, on the other hand, have said, we are not charging for this service. So is it necessary still for it to go to tender?
This is one of the most interesting points within the report. The South African procurement process doesn't say much about what are the risks and the regulations involved with services that are provided for the government completely free. And the risk involved with companies providing services completely free to the government is that they are inherently and possibly positioned much more favorably within the system. And so if there comes more contracts and so forth of a similar nature, like digitalization, in the long run, they are much more favored to get the contracts in the long run. And that is something that should be given scrutiny and looked deeper into.
And finally, before we let you go, let's talk about key discoveries, things that you picked up in the research that you carried out. Walk us through what prompted the research in particular.
So what initially prompted Open Secrets to look into this matter was that another civil society organization called Black Sash brought the matter to us. They are intimately involved with not only SRD grant applicants, but grantees in general throughout the country, and have been an advocate for #PayTheGrants and a basic income grant. And they were concerned about a new partner involved with the digitalization process of the SRD grants and wanted us to look a little bit deeper into that and see if there might be any sort of risks that could potentially be similar to the Net1 case. And so that's what initially prompted us to do the investigation. From there, we found some interesting links. So some members of the Board of Capital Appreciation, which is the major investor of GovChat, also were members of the board of Net1. That was one interesting point. But most importantly was that GovChat was providing all of these services for free without any idea of how exactly the company would make profits in the long run, and if the SASSA process would be involved in that. What we also found was that Capital Appreciation, the investors of GovChat, have had an incredibly different position to what GovChat CEO and GovChat's executives have said themselves. So GovChat's representatives have basically said that they will not be charging the government at all. However, Capital Appreciation, their investors have stated an intent to monetize the GovChat model, and that is definitely a red flag and something for the information regulator to look a little bit deeper into how exactly the data that is involved with the SASSA grant system is being collected and secured. So those are some of the key findings that we found within the report.
And finally, Abby, SASSA's reaction when you tabled this report to them or had that conversation with them?
So we have submitted the report to SASSA, and we have also submitted the report to the information regulator. We have not received, as of yet, a response, but hopefully that will be coming very soon.
Abby May, thank you so much for your time. Abby May is part of investigations and advocacy team at Open Secrets, and having that conversation with us around GovChat and the inherent possibility of manipulation.